Back last fall, I think it was, I reviewed a piece of photo editing software that I compared to, I think it was if Lightroom Classic, Hasselblad, Focus, if they had a baby, and then they died in a tragic boating accident off the coast of Tijuana, if that baby was adopted by Google Chrome, that would have been that software. So yeah, welcome back folks. I'm Adam Welch. Not only did I compare Zoner Photo Studio X to some orphan from Lightroom, that review also birthed this gem. Yeah, who could forget that? And I still love that liquify feature from Zoner. But anyway, I digress as always. A couple months ago now, they got back in touch with me. Zoner got back in touch with me about having a look at their updated version of Zoner Photo Studio X. They said that they did a lot of new upgrades, a lot of new features added, and a lot of features improved. So they sent it to me. You know what? They were right. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've more or less covered the generalization, the overview of this software back in another video. You can check that out here. Like I said, that's more or less a walk around of Zoner Photo Studio X. This video is going to be just me hitting the high points that I really like about the new feature of the software. We're going to be talking about some stuff that they've done with the color, some stuff that they've done with editing video, and I'm actually going to go a little more in depth on how you can actually scan negatives, or scan anything really, directly from the software. That was really cool. I was really impressed with it. So yeah, let's take a look at the orphan again. So with Zoner Photo Studio X opened up here for us with the manager module being the first thing we're going to be looking at. Of course, this is more or less the photo management side of Zoner Photo Studio X. Now, we're not going to go into the importation. I think Zoner calls it the acquire function of here, of actually bringing your images into Zoner. We did that in the last video. So there again, if you want to check out the more, I guess, the overview of the software, please do have a watch at that video. Now, the first thing I want to start off here is the new color, for lack of a better phrase. It's called color grading and more or less split toning inside of Zoner Photo Studio X. It's one of the newest features to come along in the spring 2021 update that I want to talk about. And speaking of that, if you want to head over to Zoner's website, you can actually take a look at all the features that were introduced in the spring 2021 update of ZPS-X. You can also, why not, take a look at all the other updates that came through for the software. And if you really want to get to know everything, you can check out what is new in this version as compared to some of the earlier builds of Zoner. Like I said, just the more you know. Now, of course, there's a number of ways to do this. I'm just going to click on an image here. All these folks are more or less going to be wild horses out in Montana. I'm working on a new book called Faces of Prior, so that's really what we're going to have to work on here. So I'm going to click on an image. I'm going to the Develop module here. Again, you don't have to actually click on one from the manager. You can just select it from the film strip down here as you go. Now, looking over here to the right, we're going to have all of our usual suspects, just like we had back when we did the video in November of 2020. You have your exposure. I'm going to adjust the shadows, exposure up just a little bit, maybe not that much. And I think we'll add a gradient filter to try to tame down that sky just a little bit. Kind of take those highlights down. Of course, in Zoner, they call them lights. Sure, why not? Even though this is an example, it's not going to have anything to do with anything. It was just kind of killing me not to get that a little bit more in balance. But anyway, let's take a look at what I really want to show you here. Get rid of that. I'm going to go down to our split toning. In Zoner, one thing I will mention here, I really wish that you guys can introduce some type of, I think Lightroom calls it a solo mode, where you can have the option to have only one of our developing panels open at once. That would really keep this thing really, I think, a lot more tidy. And with all the options we have here, it would save us a lot of scrolling or opening and closing and reopening some of these panels. But like I said, just a suggestion. This is what we're really going to talk about, guys. These are the split toning color wheels. Now, interesting to note, back, it's been a few months ago now, or maybe even last year, I can't remember when it actually came out, it doesn't matter, but Adobe introduced into Lightroom Classic this guy right here. These are the color grading wheels inside of Lightroom Classic. They're broken up between just global, midtones, highlights, and shadows, and that looks extremely familiar over here in Zoner. I'm not saying that's good or bad. If anything, I'm saying it's good because we now have a very nuanced and extremely versatile way to color grade, or in our case, Zoner calls it split toning, to add different color tones to different luminance values inside our images. Of course, like I said, we have the master, we have the shadows, we have the lights. Just looking at it here, I don't think maybe. I think master would probably be considered the midtones here now that I'm looking at it. So we have the master, that is more or less the midtones. We can introduce color there. Can we double click to 0? Yes, we can. Very good Zoner. So in our shadows, we can do the same thing. Let's add a little blue cast to our shadows here. Now, if you look down below the wheel itself, all this actually moves. If you watch the slider, it all moves and it's all controllable directly on the color wheel. It's just if you want to go down to your adjustment sliders, you can have a lot finer control of the hue, the saturation, and the balance. I don't think I want it to be quite that blue, so I'm going to back that saturation off. So now we've got that kind of a blue cast overall to the shadows. I'm going to go to the lights, more or less the highlights. I'm going to add a little bit of a warming to that. Again, just an example, guys. Not very much. Back off that saturation. Going in between the balance controls the bias between the coloration in the shadows and the highlights. About right there will do. And why not? I think I'm going to add just a little bit more contrast to this. Okay, so again, that is the new color. I keep wanting to say color grading, guys. It's more or less the same thing, but the split toning with color wheels inside of Zoner Photo Studio X. Now, if you're familiar with a lot of color grading for videos, these are probably going to look sort of familiar to you. They're going to look even more familiar to you if you are familiar with Lightroom version 10, that release, when they introduced those, when Adobe introduced those into Lightroom Classic. Very, very, very excited to see them included here in Zoner Photo Studio X. It just gives you a lot of control over the colorations of your images, and if you're into doing especially any vintage effects or any toning effects to your images, especially your black and whites, that's where it's really going to come in handy. You know what? Let's just take a look at that now, and I'll have some black and whites in here somewhere. If not, we'll just turn one black and white. This one's a little out of focus, but we're going to use it anyway. So we're going to close out a split toning. Go to color, hit grayscale. Not going to worry about anything else here, but of course we do have that polarizer that oh my goodness, I love that so much. One of the great things in Zoner is that polarizer. Yeah, I won't go down the rabbit hole on that, but just so you know, that is there. We're going to go back down to our split toning. And let's say you wanted to add, let's say you wanted to add a little bit of blue. Again, kind of that eggplant look to the shadows. And let's say you wanted to, tell you what, let's change that up a bit. Let's go a little bit of a slight blue tone to those highlights, then an ever so slightly, almost sepia tone to the shadows. And I'm going to kind of put that as a bias towards the highlights. Throw a quick graduated filter on there. Gradient filter that is. Just to get some detail back in there in the foreground. There we go. More or less a instantly toned black and white conversion. Of course, you can work with this for hours on black and white. Sometimes I do. But that just shows you that the color grading panel, the split toning panel can be used to add those color tonalities into the different luminance values in color and black and white. Again, very, 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 very cool. Now, if you're anything like me and you do a lot of video processing, whether that's for YouTube or for your own clients, you're going to absolutely love. In fact, I guarantee you're going to love this next feature upgrade I'm going to show you in Zoner Photo Studio X. And to get there, we're going to have to hop all the way over from the Develop module over to the Create module. We'll click on that, and we're just going to look down here at the very bottom of our list. This is where you can create your photo books, collages, canvas prints, all of your actual products. And they have nested video down here at the very bottom. We're going to select New Project. And have a look at this, folks. Zoner has a very updated, dedicated video editor right here inside of ZPS-X. Now all we have to do is go along our film strip, select the clips that we want to add. We can do that by actually going in and add all files or add selected. Now what I like to do is just go find my clips. I want to add 2. I want to click on that, and I think I'll do this one right here, Control click, drag those up to the timeline. And there we go. You'll notice it puts them back to back, butts them up against each other. Now I'll show you why in a second, but I'm going to move our second clip up above our first clip, and all you do to actually accomplish that is hold down, click and hold down, drag up, create new track, let go, and that's automatically up above the first track here. Let me get that centered to the very top, the very beginning of the timeline. We can toggle on and off the magnetic, your snap, more or less, your magnetic snap feature. Now I'll say this, all the things inside of the editor, the video editor of Zoner Photo Studio X, everything is very intuitive. It feels like it has everything that you would actually need, or more or less a common person. If you're, like I said, if you're on YouTube, if you're doing some not so advanced video editing, everything that you need is right here inside of Zoner, at least in my opinion. You can do fades, you can do audio fades, you can do, they have all kinds of transitions for you here between your clips. One of the things that I really like about this is they have a lot of text features. My favorite being rolling credits. Yeah, no joke. You just click and drag, put that over here to the timeline. Let's jump ahead. One thing I actually kind of do have a little trouble with is grabbing a hold of this scrubber. But, you know, and they already have it in this format for you with the header, more or less the title of whatever you're doing your video with, and then the names. Now, I've actually emailed Zoner about this because I thought there would be an easier way to control the speed. You can actually do this in the clip properties. It's by default 5 seconds, so if you want a slower scroll, do this a little bit faster. Let's go to 10 seconds. If you want a slower scroll on your credits, just change the clip speed. And that really slows it down there. There's not a, like I said, as far as I can tell, there's not a dedicated way to do that down here with the effects. I guess I should probably show you how to actually change the substance of that. So we go to header, we'll just say my movie. We'll go to text. This is where you have all your names already preset. Just delete some of those. And just put, I would like to thank myself because I am awesome. Fair enough. Sounds like what a good YouTuber would put. And we'll play that. And there you go. You have scrolling credits for really anything right here at the end of your video. Very easy to do. And I'll mention that, like I said, I'm a big DaVinci Resolve guy. That is not available inside of the free version of DaVinci 17, as I know. So that's great to be here. When you get Zoner Photo Studio X, you can do a lot of cool stuff to your videos with the built-in platform. Now, a few more things to mention about the video editor here. And this is why I moved that second clip up above the first clip, because you can actually control the opacity. Get our scrubber back here. You can control the opacity of your clips right over here on the clip tracks on your timeline control. So let's say this clip here, that's V2. I wanted to control the opacity of that for whatever reason. Bring it over here a little bit further. We'll just bring that down. There we go. And so you can change how that looks as compared to your other clip. And one of the more practical reasons for this, and I'll show you another way to do this here in just a second, is because you can add fades very easily in this way. If you wanted to fade out this clip onto this clip more or less very abruptly. Just let that opacity play out, and it's going to end for you just like that. If you want to up that opacity back to 100% for a second clip and then add a fade, just go over here to our video fading. We're going to go fade in for 2 seconds. Just click and drag up. Let's go 2 seconds there, and then we'll fade our other clip out about 1.5 seconds. That's pretty good. Move our scrubber back. And we should have a very smooth transition. Yeah, there we go. Fading into that next clip. Very cool. All done right here. And I actually haven't told you the best part about the video editor. Stop that for now. All of your basic editing controls, as far as your exposure, contrast, even your clarity, sharpness, they're all built in right here, more or less the way they were over in the develop module for our still images. Now, if you're used to Premiere Pro, Adobe's Premiere Pro, editing programs like that, more of a straightforward editing process, you're going to absolutely love this. There's not going to be any kind of gain, gamma, lift, nothing like that. This kind of more industry standard terms. Everything's going to be broken down. Very easy to understand. Adjustment sliders. We'll go back to our first clip. Have that selected. Going to increase the exposure a little bit. Add contrast. Even some clarity. And it's really that easy. I'm not saying that's something you would want to do here, but very cool. You can add grayscale, completely go black and white, or adjust the saturation so it's not quite so vibrant. And I will add that in the grayscale, you actually have channel adjustments where you can adjust those individual color channels to add some great tone effects to the different brightness levels of your video. Very, very nice to have. One thing that I will say that this does not have is that color grading. You can't actually, as far as I know anyway, color grade your videos here. Of course, you can adjust the white balance, everything that's more or less directly adjusted in our develop module you can do here, except for the color grading. I really wish Zoner, hopefully in some updates coming down the line, to introduce that split toning, those color wheels inside of the video editor. That would be a very, very, very nice thing to have. And then once you're all done editing your video, doing all your process work here in Zoner Photo Studio X, to export, it's as simple as going up to the very top right here, choosing your video format and your resolution. We're just going to go full HD. Click export. That's going to open up a little export dialog here where you can name your project, choose where you want it to go. Very straightforward stuff. Click save, and that is going to render your video project. Extremely easy to do. At the same time, there's not a lot of options as far as choosing like MP4, QuickTime, anything like that. But again, like I said, for non-advanced video editing, you're going to absolutely adore the simplicity of this video editor inside of Zoner. I know I surely did. Okay, so our last thing we're going to take a look at here is something that I touched on just barely in that first video we did back last fall, and that is going to be for some of my fellow film shooters. Yeah, I shoot probably as much or more film than I do digital, and we're going to have a look at the way you can actually use Zoner to import your images directly from your scanner. I have not actually tried this. The last time I was going to do this, I didn't have my scanner with me, so we're going to go through this together. So I'm going to get everything fired up here, load some negatives into the Epson V700, and really just see how it goes. So now with our 2 frames of 120 medium format film loaded up, we're going to click Acquire from Scanner. All right, we have our Epson 700 showing up here, native mode, target open in picture editor, save picture to disk. Let's have that open up in the picture editor, because I think if we do that, I think we have the options to save the picture to the disk and then open it up in either the develop or the editor, or go straight to the editor. And then of course we have the option to save to PDF. Yeah, let's open that up in the editor, because that's probably where I would be headed anyway. So with all that selected, I'm going to click scan. I assume this is what we need to do. Ah, that opened up the Epson scan utility. Okay. I mean, I guess that's all right. I thought it was actually going to be a dedicated Zoner scan utility, but yeah, let's just go ahead and continue and see what actually is going to happen here. So I'm going to change, kind of get a crash course in negative scanning. Film with holder. It's black and white negative film. Going to leave all this alone. I'm going to take that unsharp mask off of there, and we'll just click preview. Yeah, we can hear the scanner warming up here. I'm gonna let this run, but I'll end up fast forwarding so you don't have to wait for the scanner to actually warm up to see the preview here. Alright, here are our previews. I'm just going to let it more or less stay this way. I guess I could rotate them. And then we'll do everything actually inside of the Zoner editor. Going to keep the resolution very low, go to 600 so the scanning won't take quite as long. Take the unsharp mask off, and we're going to hit scan. And again, I'll do you the favor. Well, that's interesting. Some applications do not allow more than one image to be scanned at a time. Would you like to start scanning? Yeah, I'm going to hit OK, just see what happens. Surely you can scan more than one image at a time. It says it's, scanning one of two. So like I said, we'll see what happens, and I will, again, spare you actually having to set through the scanning process here. So we'll pick back up in the editor once the negatives are scanned. Alright, so far so good. It's acting like it is scanning both of these. And you can tell we actually already have one brought into the editor. Yeah, like I said, that's looking pretty good so far. I think I'm already liking this, so I'm going to just exit out of Epson Scan completely. Wow, yeah, that's for an unadjusted straight scan. Sorry, my Alexa tried to kick in there. That is very good. Of course, you know, the Epson Scan did the actual work, but the convenience of just bringing these both into an editor. Yeah, you know, of course, if you watched the last video, you'll know that Zoner operates on a tabular system. So we have our actual tabs up top. Here was our original Photo Manager module. And when we scan those, it opened up another tab for our editor. Wow, I don't know. Use the scroll wheel to zoom in here. That's just a really good straight scan. Of course, you can't really see too much of it on here. But it just looks really good right out of the gate. I didn't use the unsharp mask or anything. And of course, we have more or less all of our adjustments here at our disposal. Let's add a few things in here. Quick edits. A little more contrast, maybe. Really, that's all I think I'd want to do here. Maybe a little more up on the shadows, a little clarity, maybe. Huh. I don't know why. That was just extremely easy. I don't know if I would use that all the time, because it almost seems like there's, even though you're more or less putting another step in between you and your scan, not having to actually scan everything in, save it, and then open it up in Lightroom or Photoshop or Zoner or anything else. You can actually scan directly from the program. I really, really, really like that. And something else, if I'm not mistaken, can we copy? It seems like there was a way, and I'm probably blanking out on it here, a way that we could have copied the adjustments we just did to this layer over to our other image. Like I said, I would almost be definitely sure there's a way to do that. Sorry, folks, I'm blanking out on it here. But in any case, I really like that. I think I may try that again on some of my other negatives that I really, really want to work with quite a bit. Because like I said, you'd have to see some of the other scanning processes, and I'll probably do a video on that too. But that is just a very clean scan, for lack of a better word. I know there's generally, of course, I try to stay as clean as possible. You know, I blew everything off before we scanned. That just looks really good. I didn't have any of the digital ice turned on. in the Epson scan where that more or less removes the dust or attempts to move the dust and the blemishes. But yeah, this looks a very good true to process negative. I developed this in a type of developer. Looks very good and very true to that. The color looks very good. I didn't have to do any kind of color correction to it, honestly. So yeah, I will, before I get to talking about developing black and white film, I'll shut this off here. But yeah, very good test run for the scan utility here inside of Zoner. Let's just be completely thorough. How would we get this out? We go to save. And again, it's like we had with our videos or other exportation. You can choose the file format and where you want to put that on your computer. And you would just click save. Easy enough. Yeah, very good, Zoner. I salute you for that. I think I will be using that quite a bit here in the future. Probably the immediate future. So there you have it, folks. Like I said, they have actually crammed a lot of stuff in the spring 2021 update of Zoner Photo Studio X. It's kind of refreshing to see features being introduced to a program that you might actually want to use. I really love that video editing update. I think they've really came a long way. I'm actually looking forward to how they're going to go on the next update with that. I'd love to see the color wheels integrated into the video editing. A few other things, like I said, it's a little hard to grab that scrubber, but you know, that's just probably just me. The split toning, let's say the color grading more or less in Zoner, very reminiscent to the color grading feature that was introduced into Lightroom V10. I love that. You can do so much with that, whether you're working with color or black and white, and I'm glad to see that being introduced into Zoner Photo Studio X. And yeah, the negative scanning, I was a little more positive scanning. I was kind of surprised to see how they went about that. Like I said, I was expecting it more or less to be a native scanning utility built into Zoner, not so much it just bridging over into the Epson scan or whatever you happen to be using. But overall, it worked really well. And like I said, all this stuff could probably merit its own video. But the scanning process there, that's kind of unique because, like I said, I swear that scan, I'd actually already scanned those negatives before, just using the dedicated Epson utility, Epson scan. But I swear they look better in this. Like I said, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just a thing with the scanning. I don't know. But I brought it directly from the scanner into Zoner. Didn't have to do much, and I was more or less left with a very, very well done scan of that negative. Yeah, it was kind of wild. So yeah, head over to Zoner's website. You can see more of these features in depth there. Also, of course, they offer a free 30-day trial. I'll put that link down in the description. And speaking of stuff that's down in the description, guys, Camera Jockey Clothiers. Cheap stuff, good stuff, t-shirts, fanny packs, mugs, stickers, working on a few other things coming up. I'm trying to get rid of all the ads in my videos, folks. They've got to where they really bother me. I'm actually trying to get rid of all the affiliate links. So instead of doing a Patreon kind of thing, I've opened up Camera Jockey Clothiers over on Spring. You get something, I get something, and like I said, we can get rid of those damn ads. Help me out with it. Until next time, guys, I am Adam Welch. Thanks again for being here. And I can't end these videos